Namaskar, sir. I, Sangeeta Mehrotra from Sankalp, Aao Baat Kare, proudly present this special Independence Day edition of our Mediation Musings, Do Pal Baat Theek Ke. The tagline for polio eradication in India was Do Boond Zindagi Ke. Inspired by its simplicity and impact, I coined Do Pal Baat Theek Ke to promote awareness about mediation. A heartfelt tribute to the ongoing campaign Mediation for the Nation. This special Independence Day edition is dedicated to advancing the cause of mediation in India, celebrating its potential as a transformative tool for conflict resolution, and honoring the nationwide movement that inspires dialogue, understanding, and peace. Diksha now will take over and go through the conversation. Thank you, sir. Diksha.
Good evening. I'm Diksha Mehrotra from Sankalp Aao Baat Kare. When we thought about who should lead this very first conversation, one name emerged effortlessly. Someone whose life's work embodies the very spirit of dialogue and resolution. He is known as the guru of mediation in India, a pioneer who laid the foundations of the movement in our country, a mentor who has guided the journey of countless mediators, and a guiding light whose influence extends far beyond courtrooms and conference rooms. From constitutional and commercial law practice to mediating some of India's most significant disputes, including the Assam-Nagaland border dispute, intra-Parsi religious dispute, and the historic Ayodhya Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid matter. Mr. Sriram Panchu's work has been nothing short of inspiring, unmatched, and extraordinary. He has trained over thousands of mediators, authored several books on the subject, and continues to lead from the front in promoting mediation as preferred path to resolving dispute. Today with Sir, we will explore the future of mediation, the creation of opportunities for young mediators, the importance of making mediation training affordable and accessible, the need for guiding and hand-holding as they navigate the mediation maze, the question of fair remuneration and the role of government and institutions, and the road ahead for our profession. It feels only right that Mediation Musings, Do Pal Baatcheet Ke, begins with a master, a teacher, and a trailblazer, and I'm truly honored to welcome Mr. Sriram Panchu Sir. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us for this very first session of Mediation Musings. It feels incredibly special to start this journey with someone whose career has not only spanned decades, but has also helped shape the very landscape of mediation in our country and abroad. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for an incredibly generous introduction.
So before we look ahead, I like to go back in time. You began your legal practice in 1976. And over the years, you moved from litigation into becoming one of not just India's, but internationally leading voices in mediation. Can you take us into the turning point? What drew you towards mediation and what made you believe in its power?
It's a good question. It takes me back many years in time. So this is Mediation Musings, and we are having a conversation.
Yes, sir.
So as you said, I started practice in 1976. And within about 10 to 15 years of practice, I developed a kind of dissatisfaction and unhappiness. It wasn't with the law. I mean, I'm passionate about the law. I think the law is one of society's incredibly important institutions. And I continue to be passionate about the law. But it was about the way the law was actually affecting the lives of people. I mean, you think of the law as an institution and you think here are the laws, and you have a problem, and you go to court, and you get justice, and it's clean, straight, efficient, and it works for your benefit. That's why I joined law. That's why I became a lawyer. But what I found in law practice actually was that because the system is so deeply adversarial, that every case dragged out, that every case drew allegations and strong allegations and counter charges, that every case made relationships worse, that every case contributed to the decline in the health, it contributed to the tension and the increase of tension in people, general unhappiness. I mean, you cannot go to court and see a smiling face. It is always faces of worry, of despair, of tension, of unhappiness. And I found that, I would do my best for my clients, I would win cases, but then there would be, appeals on top of appeals, there would be uncertainty. And sometimes even when the case ended in the topmost court with victory for the client, there was no good feeling in the air. There was no good feeling in the air. It was just exhaustion. And the fact that, okay, I have succeeded in this case, but I have destroyed a relationship. Whether it's a company shareholder or a family partition or whatever. So it used to disturb me, this adversarial aspect of the law, that it was adversarial in every case, used to disturb me. I, at that time, and still do, I was doing a lot of environmental cases pro bono. So Dr. M.S. Swaminathan suggested to me, he said, look, there is something called the Salzburg Seminar. It's held in Austria, the birthplace of Mozart. And he said, I would like to propose you for the seminar. I think you should attend. There is a session called Harmonizing Environment and Development. Harmonizing Environment and Development Conflict. And since you're working so much for environmental cause, why don't you go and take a look at this? I said, fine. And I went. The seminar itself is a fantastic institution. They conduct about 10 to 12 seminars a year, each lasting about 10 days to 2 weeks. And they bring in mid-level, mid-career people across the world. And they, throw them in with a few experts. And it is just discussion, discussion, discussion from day one. And that discussion will start from 9 in the morning and go on till well after dinner. It's a life-changing experience. So people who've been through the Salzburg seminar, they have often said it's a life-changing experience. Life has changed after that for the better. I wish we had something like that in India. So I went for the seminar. As I said, the topic was harmonizing environment and development. And we had 2 experts on mediation. And this was what they taught us, that there is a method called mediation. And you can use mediation to harmonize development and environment conflicts by getting people to communicate, to talk, to understand, and search for solutions. I promise you, it was the very first time I'd heard of the word mediation. But when I left the seminar, it was so strongly embedded in my mind. It was so strongly embedded in my mind. For me, it was a eureka moment. It was a moment where things really clicked. Because then I saw this as a process which you can use in a number of cases concerning relationships, concerning commercial disputes, civil disputes, or property disputes. And for me, it fell into place that here is the law. You need the hard side of the law for certain kinds of cases, for constitutional cases, for cases involving rights, for cases when there is a great imbalance, for cases to rectify social inaction and social wrong. You need the adversarial side of the law. But equally, when you have something like mediation, you apply that to the other kind of cases, which are about families, which are about companies, which are about civil disputes, property disputes, relationship disputes. So it fell for me very clearly into two categories. One side, you apply the hard kind of law, and the other, you apply the softer approach of mediation. And my world made sense. I went into the Salzburg seminar as a lawyer who said, I don't understand why, things are not working, why things are going, why things are not better. I emerged from the Salzburg seminar as somebody with clear-cut conviction on, how the law can be used and the different ways in which you can use the law to gain results. So as I said, to me, it was a fantastic experience. By the way, I must also tell you that the seminar itself is housed in the very same castle where they shot the movie The Sound of Music.
Oh.
So every morning we would have tea in the patio just across the lake from which Julie Andrews would come dripping out of the lake to meet Colonel Von Trapp. It was a lifetime thing. So if anybody gets a chance to go to the Salzburg seminar, you should take it seriously. So I came back. As I said, my life had changed. My life had changed. I saw things differently. And I came back and I started to talk to people about mediation. And one mistake I made was, this is a mistake I think all prophets make. You say something and you think people will just take it and accept it. Let me tell you, very few people accepted it and took it. So I had to literally go after people, lawyers, judges. I had to start writing about it. So I started to write about mediation. I started to speak about it. And when I spoke, there were a couple of instances when people turned up for my talk with a yoga mat under their arm because they thought this is something on meditation. It happened quite often actually in those days. So it was writing, it was speaking, it was talking to people one-to-one, it was addressing audiences, it was meeting judges, and it was an incredibly challenging task of bringing in a new concept. And let me tell you, the adversarial system is one of the most hardened concepts we have because it's been there for hundreds of years. It's handed down to the British. All our books, all our law books are geared to the adversarial system. Our entire court process is geared towards that. So to bring about a dent in the thinking of people, was just incredibly challenging. If you ask me what made you go on with it for so many years, I honestly can't give you an answer. I can't give you an answer. The only answer I can give you is that, to be very frank, the only answer I can give you is, someone up there said, okay, you have to walk this path, and I'll give you the energy to walk on the path. Basically, I think that. So that's how it all started. That's how it all started. And of course, there's a second part of that as to when did it actually finally start to take root. But I'll wait for your question on that.
So the next question that I have for you is, mediation in some form has been part of India's culture for centuries, from community elders to panchayat resolving the disputes. But when you began advocating for structured institutional mediation within the legal system, it was still unfamiliar territory for many. What was it like building trust in this formal approach and encouraging people to embrace it?
Good question. And to be very frank, I think it was my personal connections as a lawyer with other lawyers and with judges which gave me an audience. With other lawyers, I would say, look, we're doing this case against each other. Why don't we try and mediate it? And they would say, what's mediation? And I would explain mediation. And some of them said, yeah, no problem, let's give it a try. The other thing I must tell you is, in my court, I'm known as some kind of a maverick. And this is the guy who's going to do something unusual. So people are not very surprised. But you build up connections, you build up a reputation, and at least they accept your bona fides. So they say, yeah, let's give it a try. So we tried it in a number of cases, and actually it worked very well. In family disputes, in a dispute involving a church, in dispute involving landowners, it actually worked well. So a little bit of word started to spread, saying, there is something new that Sriram's involved in, which seems interesting. The other advantage I had is I am part of a broad public interest movement. I started one of India's first consumer groups in 1985. And I've done a significant amount of public interest litigation. So I had a certain voice in the press. My articles used to get published. I had a certain voice, a certain readership. So I started to write about mediation, about what it is and how it works and what benefits it has. Also, because of my public interest work, I used to be invited to speak at forums, and I utilized some of those things, to say, well, this time instead of speaking on, environment or this, that, the other, I want to speak on mediation, and they would say, yes, fine, please come, etc. So that also helped. Then I tried to spot, the sensitive judge. I realized that the normal judge is not going to accept this. So I tried to spot the sensitive judge, and because of my work, I had friends in the judiciary, people whom I knew. So I started, I started to meet them, and I wouldn't say it was like ready acceptance of the idea, but not immediate dismissal of the idea. So that kind of, it's all, I think, building up the ground, creating the groundwork for this. So this much happened. I then realized that, I'm doing all this talking about mediation, but I don't even have a formal training in this, except for some 2-day Pepperdine workshops. I don't know where's my formal basis training in this. And then I had a stroke of luck. New York University's law school of law, was starting a new program called Global Public Interest Law. It was, public interest cases, master's program. And the students were actually practicing lawyers, 25 of them from all over the world. It was the first time any university was trying this. And they had an academic to teach, but they wanted a practitioner. Just an academic won't do, they wanted a practitioner. And NYU's head had met me when he'd come out to India once. And, I had sent word saying I'm interested in coming to the US to study mediation. And I think through Amartya Sen and somebody else, word got to Norman Dodson that Sriram's interested in coming to the US. So he wrote to me and he said, will you come out for a year and teach this course on public interest law? And I said, well, my interest is in researching mediation. And he said, no problem. You teach, you'll have just 2 classes a week to teach. And we will open out all doors for you on mediation. So I said, fine. So I was about 24 years into practice, and I took a sabbatical for a year. Now, everybody thought I was mad. They said, you cannot do this. You cannot leave an ongoing practice and go away for a year. You won't have any cases when you come back. This is crazy. I even had one judge of the Supreme Court call me to Delhi. I don't know why he called me. And he sat me down in his chamber and said, you can't do this. You can't go abroad like this. So I said, I'm going, I'm going. I need to go. I'm going. Notwithstanding what anybody is saying, I went, and I'm telling you, it was the best year of my life. Taking a sabbatical, I think anybody should just consider, it's enormously enriching. So I went to America, and as I said, NYU opened out all doors for me. I could meet judges, lawyers, mediators, court administrators, a whole lot of people I could meet. I even met Sonia Sotomayor, who's now on the Supreme Court of the US. So I came back, I started to write my book. I knew I had to write a book on mediation to make it known. I started to do my research, start writing my book. Acquire this grounding of, this depth of talking to people, observation, of seeing how the system works, refining and honing my own thoughts. So that was a very important year for me. And I came back, continued with this work of, talking, writing to people, started talking to industry, trying to set up mediation platforms. Then I realized that, something needed to move through the courts. Now, let me stop here because I have this feeling that I'm, hugely running out of your allotted time.
So there is no time
Not
slot.
at all.
As long as you feel okay, we will go through it.
All right.
And we don't have any this thing. That is why we have not gone live.
All right, because I'm kind of talking ahead of a lot, so I'm just a bit worried that your format doesn't permit this.
No, no issue.
So I realized that, this will not move unless the court takes it. And I had a stroke of luck. In 2005, Justice Kajru was Chief Justice in Madras High Court. Now, Kajru Sahib is also a maverick. And I said, okay, maybe this man will buy this idea. So I asked for a meeting with him, and they gave me an appointment on a Tuesday evening. And on Monday afternoon, I had a huge fight with him in court. And I said, oh God, you just ruined your chance. Anyway, Tuesday evening, I went and met him. And he said, are you the lawyer who fought with me yesterday? So I said, yes, I am. So he said, good, I like that kind of thing. Now come on, tell me, what is this mediation that you want to talk about? So I spoke to him about mediation. I said, this is what it is. This is how it can work. This will work. This is where it can help. This is what we can do. And he said, what do you want? I said, I just want you to refer a few cases to mediation so that we can say that the court has referred cases, etc. He said, all right, let me get back to you. Now, this is entirely Justice Kajru's brainwave. He got back to me on the 13th of March, 2005. It was my birthday. I was traveling to Bangalore. At the airport, I got a call from him saying, he says, I've decided to do something. We will create a mediation center as an official wing of the High Court. We will call it the Tamil Nadu Mediation and Conciliation Center. It will be an official wing of the High Court. I will give you space. I will give you staff. I will send you cases. I will tell judges to refer cases. But I have no money to give you. Are you willing to take it? Who will say no? So I said, yes, of course. So that's it. We came back and then, we framed a charter because we needed some kind of institutional guidelines. So we framed a charter. We got 2 rooms. That committee made a huge fuss in giving me 2 rooms. I said, I want 2 rooms at the entrance of the court. I want people to enter and see the word mediation. So they made a huge fuss. Finally, as I said, one of them said, just give it to Sriram. The silly idea won't last more than 6 months. So they gave me those 2 rooms. And they're still there. They're kept as heritage rooms now. My dining table went to the High Court and became India's first court and mediation table.
Oh,
It's still there. I've donated it to them now. We raised funds from people, from clients, from others to bring over a trainer from the US, Geeta Ravindra, very fine trainer. And she said, I'll come, I won't charge. She came over, she trained our first batch of 24 or 30 mediators. We had to go after people to say, come and be mediators. And some of them came little hesitantly, but anyway, we got a batch of 24 or 30. We trained them, and we started doing cases. What do you need for a mediation center? You need nothing. You just need a room, and you need cases, and you need some people trained as mediators. That's all you need, and that's all. That's all it took to start a mediation center. Of course, it took a lot more because one had to, it was new to a lot of people. So every evening almost I would run coaching classes, take people through mediation. I would sit in on people's mediations and see they were doing it properly. I had to devise the structure and the process and the forms and the format and schedule and everything. So somewhere, I think I'm one of those bipolar types. I have a little bit of half the time in court practice and half the time doing this. But every day used to be like that. And that's how we started. And we lucked out in 2 cases. You want me to talk about those?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, please.
One case I spoke about in Delhi. The first case had succeeded. A case where a contractor had built a house for an owner and they had a dispute. It was an arbitration, and the judge said, let's try mediation. And 3 sessions in a matter of 2-3 weeks, and it settled. And it was over. And when the agreement was signed and the check was given, the contractor's wife, I'm going to repeat this, she took me aside and she said, I will tell you, sir, that we need this money for my husband's treatment. We couldn't say it during the mediation, but now that we have got this money in such quick time, we are so grateful now he can be treated. So I said, I wish you all the best. And when she left the room, she turned around, simple lady, and she just said, I want to tell you, this is not any ordinary room. It is a house of God. Really, that one statement has always stayed with me. And it never fails to draw a little bit of tears from me. It is a house of God, she said. And I have to thank that lady because the minute she made that statement, any vestige of doubt in my mind completely evaporated. Don't forget, I had spent 14 years in trying to build up this thing. from 1991. We just started this court center. We hadn't shown any successes for 4 or 5 mediations. And obviously, you will have a little bit of a doubt, is this going to work or not work? The minute that lady said that this is a house of God, I just knew there is no way this is not going to work. There was an interesting sequel to this. 5 years later, I was driving down Nugambakam High Road in Chennai, and there was a knock on my car door. And there was a couple on a scooter, and I didn't recognize them, but I told the driver, just go to the side. And I stepped out, and they got off the scooter, and then this lady, she said, "You don't recognize us, sir, but we are the couple which came to you in that mediation in 2005 about that contractor dispute. And I just want to tell you that look at my husband now, he's cured of cancer. We are doing well, our children are doing well, and we are a happy family." It was so nice to hear that. It was so nice to hear that. Anyway, that was one standout case. And then the next year we had another case, which was huge. It is a case of a company called Standard Motors. It used to make a car called the Herald car. It was very popular at one time. I don't know whether, Sagita, you've seen that car, the Herald car.
Standard Herald.
Standard Herald, like the Triumph of UK. So the company folded up, and its assets were sold in 94. But there were 2 sets of claimants. The banks were claiming some monies, and the workers were claiming monies. And totally that money was more than what was available. I think some 50 crores was available after some disbursement. But between banks and workers, banks were claiming 50 crores, and workers were claiming some 20, 25 crores, I think. So nothing got distributed. Just imagine, for 12 years, nothing got distributed. And there are 2,196 workers. Anyway, in 2006, June, a judge said, let's try mediation. Sent it to mediation. And by September, we got a result. I remember sitting with the bankers on 15th September. Maybe I shouldn't mention, I shouldn't talk about what happened during the mediation. So I'll leave that aside. So we got a result. The banks came down a considerable amount, and the workers came down a bit. And we had a function where the Chief Justice A.P. Shah, he said we should celebrate this. It'll give it publicity. So we had a function for the Chief Justice to distribute checks to all the workers and the banks. And we told the workers, we said, look, you are 2,196 of you. You form into batches of 20 or 30, and one representative will go and get the check from the Chief Justice. And they said, nothing doing. Each one of us wants to go and get it from him. So a function which was supposed to start at 5:30 and finish by 6:30 went on till 9:30 in the night. We had to get biryani and feed everybody. And one thing that happened from that mediation was that it reached the ears of President Kalam. We got a message from Rashtrapati Bhavan saying that the president wants to come and visit the center. And initially, everybody thought it was a joke because, including my Chief Justice, because he said the president only goes to some 100th or 150 or 200th anniversary. We are only a 1-year-old center. And besides, have you ever heard the president going where he's not invited? We didn't dare to invite anybody. So I had to call up Rashtrapati Bhavan and speak to the secretary, the president. I said, this letter has come, but is it for real? He said, don't make no mistake, sir. It's very much for real. President is more interested in your center than in anything else. And he said, because the president's father was a mediator in their village.
Wow.
Oh,
So he wants to see this India's first mediation center, and he wants to visit. He came and he talked to us for half an hour, 45 minutes, just a few mediators, and then we had a big public function. And I cannot describe to you the transparent goodness of that man. You probably see his photograph here in my room. Do you see the photographs?
yes. Just the back. Both
You
of
can
you.
see the behind me.
Yes, sir.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I can't describe to you the transparent goodness and sincerity and the godliness of that man. But he blessed the whole initiative and he said this should go national. And almost as though it was his how do I say it, his commander. It started to go national then. Then, we were asked to come to Delhi to train mediators. We were asked to go to Allahabad to train mediators. And then it was a round of going to this high court, that high court, all over the place. Supreme Court Mediation Center. And everybody adopted the model which we had created, an organizing committee, a judges committee, formats, things like that. And yeah, I think Victor Hugo has said it, no? He said, there's nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come.
Really true, sir.
So if the time has come for something, it'll happen. It'll happen.
We say you can go to from number 5.
So now we'll talk about future of mediation in India.
Right.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
So the next question I have for you is, how do you see technology, whether it is the online platforms or AI-assisted tools, shaping the mediation process in the years to come?
Okay. See, I think mediation lends itself very well to online. Lends itself very well to online for a number of reasons. One, you can structure meetings far more easily. You're not hampered by everybody having to come to one space. Earlier, everyone had to assemble in one place. We were in a rush to finish on time. Sometimes we couldn't succeed because not enough progress could be made in 1 day or 2 days. But this online platform is fantastic because people can just assemble from wherever they are, whichever city, whichever part of the world, they can assemble. So that's a huge thing. Secondly, mediation is all about interpersonal conversation, one-to-one. It's not like addressing a judge in a court. Where it's a different kind of setting. Court setting is a different kind of setting, a different kind of energy. But in a mediation, what you need is exactly what we're doing now, conversing one-to-one. Thirdly, a lot of people feel very safe talking from their houses. Fourthly, sometimes there is friction between parties. And when you put them in the same room, that friction is there. But when you have them, in one block on screen, then you don't have so much of that friction. So I think online is a great way to go for mediation. It's not just something that we came to because of COVID, But even naturally, I think online works very well for mediation. I sometimes conduct mediations in the same city, even when parties are in the same city. I will just say, come, let's meet online. There are some instances where you need to meet in person, and you know that for me to tackle this person or for this person to move, change their stand, I need to sit with them face to face. There is a certain power, there is a certain capacity in face-to-face meetings. So for certain kinds of conviction kind of things, I would say let's sit down face-to-face. Or when we all have to work together very quickly to sort out some things, we can do face-to-face. But online is a great asset for mediation. AI, I don't know too much about it. Okay, I don't know too much about it. I have younger colleagues, some juniors of mine who work in AI and who sent me their models which show that AI can take a problem and it can then tell you what is the next step. And it can say what are possible solutions and what are questions to ask, things like that. I'm a little old school and also perhaps set in my ways. So I think it will take me some time to actually see if I can use AI. Right now, I'm more comfortable just doing things my way. Parties sit with me, I have a feel for something, and I go with that, etc. So will I really use AI because AI is going to tell me its own way of thinking, etc.? I don't know. At some time, I will try it out. I'll try it out. But at all times, I think one must remember that AI should never be more than an assistive device, an assistive tool.
Yes.
It should never trump your own judgment and your own intuitive feel of how you want to go.
Absolutely, sir. So the next question is, today mediation is in the spotlight. If you look 10 years ahead, how do you envision the role of mediation in India's justice system? And if you were to set 3 national priorities for mediation in India over the next decades, what would they be?
All right. Make 10 into 20. Instead of 10 years, give me 20 years. I would say in 20 years' time, I want to move half of India's litigation onto mediation tables. I want to move the bulk of civil, commercial, property, family, matrimonial. I want to move them onto mediation tables. And that's talking about, a solid amount of caseload. In other words, I want, whether it's a judge or lawyers, I want them to ask the question, why aren't we mediating this case? As the default question. So I want to structure the systems in such a way, as I said, I want to move half of India's litigation away from the courts onto mediation tables and keep the courts for criminal cases, constitutional issues, human rights issues, interpretation, direction of court is necessary. Keep it for those. So that's the big thing. Okay. So I'm setting priorities. I will set priority A with the court and tell the court that, look, have an efficient mediation system for whatever cases come to you. We can try, I mean, there are reservations on, forcing people to go to mediation pre-litigation. We have to work around, I think we can, see, there are advantages in telling people that before you finalize your pleadings, try mediation. Okay. Equally, that might not be the best thing at that stage because people may not be ready. So we have to work with both. But basically, that every case which is amenable to mediation should go to a mediation table. Whether it goes at the day of institution of suit or after interim arguments are over, it should go to a mediation table. Okay, number one. Number two, court mediators shouldn't be just treated as pro bono, honorarium, pay them a little bit kind of thing, etc. Nor should the court accept a fall in quality of mediators. Today, nobody questions quality. But court mediators should be subject to quality standards, performance audit and quality standards. And court mediators should be paid well. When I say paid well, I mean really pay them well. They're doing important work. Raising money is never a problem. I will tell you, the cost of running a mediation system and disposing of a case in a mediation system is fractional to the cost of disposing of a case in the adversarial system. Because there you need brick and mortar, you need judges, you need court staff, you need this, you need that, then you have appellate process, etc. Here the cost is fractional. So government itself should be happy to pay for mediation services. Court itself for successful mediations. I told you about that Standard Motors case. The banks got 30 crores in that case. And the next day, those 6 bankers came and met me and they said, how much do we pay you? So I said, we've just started and we have no system for any payment. We didn't have, we just started. Nobody said anything about any payment. So I said, we have no system for any payment, but we need a water cooler and you can buy us a water cooler. And those are all tough nut bankers. Laughed at me. Came back the next day with a water cooler and one check for 30 lakhs. So that became the first corpus of the mediation center. The point is that when people get a benefit in the mediation, they are willing to pay. They may crib about paying, court and lawyers and this, that, the other. But when they've gone through a process of mediation and seen how it works, and they come out, benefited and happier, and you tell them that, look, your case is worth so much, and, the center needs money to run, they happily pay. So money is not an issue. Money is not an issue, is never an issue. And the other thing that the courts think should do is to open it out to young people. Allow fresh lawyers to be mediators. You may say you start as co-mediators or whatever, but bring them into the fold early. If you say you have to wait 10, 15 years, why will they wait? They'll go somewhere else. But bring them into the fold early because it's good to have, young, fresh people who can be trained. So if these 3, 4 simple things are done, I think we can take care of the court system. The other big chunk of cases is government. The government has 48% of cases in India go to government. Now, many of these are capable of settlement because somebody has taken an unreasonable stand, either in the government or on the other side. They're capable of settlement. The problem with government is officers are scared to settle cases because, see, in all settlements, there is some give and some take. You may get a lot, but you may have to give something. Now, because you have given up something, let us say you have a case where the claim is 300 crores. It's impossible to get that thing in litigation, it's too difficult. So let's say there is a settlement offer which says, all right, we'll settle for 250 crores. Okay. Now, government is benefiting the 250 crores. But tomorrow, if some CBI officer says, oh, you gave up 50 crores, I will therefore prosecute you. That is why people in government are not able to take decisions even when they know matter can be settled well. Now, this is a big problem with government. We have made a beginning in terms of putting some capacity in section 48 and 49 of the Mediation Act, saying that departments can set up their own systems for mediation and handling cases and must get the final approval of the competent authority before going through. So it's a beginning which is made. It still doesn't answer. The other thing which has been done is that the government has issued a note. This was issued by the Mr. Somanathan at his instance. He is now the cabinet secretary, saying that we should really be thinking more in terms of mediation than arbitration. Arbitration is not serving our purpose. So the third part of that is to be able to get some system by which the officer gets immunity for the decision. So maybe we have some, high-power committee to which these proposals can go for settlement. And then if the committee says, yes, this is all right, everybody should have immunity. If you do that, then government will settle cases. And those are huge cases, mind you. ONGC, National Highways Authorities, transportation, telecommunications, the huge cases. So, and then not just huge cases there. Government can also settle cases with the ordinary citizen who comes to court. Look at your courts. The bulk of our litigation is writ jurisdiction. And the bulk of writ jurisdiction is administrative, misgovernance. So even there you can set up, mediation possibilities. I remember Justice Mohit Shah, when he was Chief Justice in Bombay High Court. For these kind of cases, he would say, let's not have it in court, I will convene it on a round table, bring the officers. So the officers would come and the litigant would come and he would just sort it out at the table. Because all those cases only require, something to be sorted out. A little firm hand of the judge and, you sort it out. So there's a tremendous possibility for cases involving government, if they work out this little gap in the system. I would say the third, of course, is business. The third is business. Business, again, we will get a tipping point, I think, in business as success stories spread. Because look at mediation, it ticks off every box that is important to business. It ticks off time, cost, solution, relationship, participation, enforcement. Every one of the boxes important for business is ticked off in mediation. None of these boxes are ticked off in litigation. So it's a question of time, before business. I think some success stories need to get into the air. And for people to realize we should be trying mediation. So these, I would say, would be the three big things. I will just add a fourth. I'm hoping that at some time we will be able to create something called an Indian mediation service.
Great, sir.
like the Indian Administrative Service or the Indian Judicial Service, that we should create something called the Indian Mediation Service, and offer actually, full-scale employment to people who want to be mediators, and make it a service. Either you get in, fully, or you come on what they call short service commissions, 5 years or 7 years kind of thing. But a regular service, and then we can place them in panchayats, we can place them in institutions, we can place them in government offices, we can place them, in so many different places, and really create this culture. So that's my answer to that.